The first thing everyone noticed that morning was the sound. Not the applause. Not the music from the school band. Not the cheerful voices of proud families gathering beneath rows of blue and silver decorations. It was the sound of a folding chair crashing onto the concrete walkway outside the auditorium. A little boy in a graduation gown froze beside the entrance, his small hands trembling around his cap as he watched two security guards block his father's path. His father never raised his voice. He simply lowered his eyes, clutched a carefully wrapped gift in one hand, and whispered that he only wanted to see his son graduate. What happened next would leave an entire school speechless. Before we begin, if you believe kindness matters, if you believe people deserve second chances, and if you believe no parent should ever be judged by their appearance, please like this video, comment where you're watching from, share this story with someone who needs hope, and subscribe to Kindness Hub for more uplifting stories that remind us how powerful compassion can be. The sun had risen bright and warm over Harbor Ridge, a quiet coastal town where everyone seemed to know everyone else's story. Or at least they thought they did. 42-year-old Merrick Hale stood outside his aging pickup truck in the school parking lot, carefully smoothing the wrinkles from his only button-down shirt. The shirt had once been white. Years of hard work had faded it to a dull gray. His work boots carried permanent stains from engine oil, and the skin on his hands was rough from years spent repairing fishing boats and small engines in a tiny garage near the harbor. None of that bothered him. The only thing that mattered was the little boy sitting inside the truck. His son, Corbin. Today was Corbin's 5th grade graduation. For most parents, it was a simple milestone. For Merrick, it felt like a miracle. 6 years earlier, his wife, Noreen, had died unexpectedly after a sudden illness. In the space of a single week, Merrick had lost his partner, his closest friend, and the future they had planned together. At the same time, he became everything to a grieving 6-year-old boy. Father. Mother. Provider. Comforter. Protector. There had been nights when Merrick skipped meals so Corbin could have enough to eat. Winters when he kept the heat low and slept in his coat so he could afford school supplies. He worked before sunrise and often long after dark, taking every repair job he could find. Still, every evening, no matter how exhausted he was, he helped Corbin with homework. Every weekend, they visited the beach where Noreen loved to watch sunsets. Every birthday, Merrick baked the same lopsided chocolate cake because it had been Noreen's tradition. And every year, he promised his son one thing. "I'll always show up." Corbin believed him. Because despite everything life had taken from them, Merrick had never broken that promise. That morning, father and son sat together in the truck for a few extra minutes. Corbin adjusted his graduation cap and smiled nervously. Merrick handed him a small wrapped box. Inside was an old compass that had belonged to Noreen. He had spent months restoring it. Engraved on the back were 4 simple words. "Find your way home." Corbin hugged the gift tightly. Merrick blinked away tears. The ceremony was about to begin. They walked toward the school entrance together beneath bright blue skies while families gathered for photos and laughter echoed across the courtyard. But as they approached the auditorium doors, 2 security guards stepped in front of Merrick. One glanced at his faded clothes. The other looked at the old truck parked near the back of the lot. Their expressions changed immediately. There had been a misunderstanding earlier that week involving unauthorized contractors working near the school. Someone had reported a suspicious man lingering around campus that morning. Without asking questions, the guards assumed they had found him. Merrick tried to explain. He showed them the invitation folded carefully inside his wallet. He pointed toward Corbin. He calmly repeated that he was there for his son's graduation. But assumptions are powerful things. And sometimes people see what they expect to see. Other parents began watching. Whispers spread quickly through the crowd. Corbin's face turned pale. He looked from the guards to his father, confusion filling his eyes. Merrick could have argued. He could have shouted. Instead, he stood silently, embarrassed by the growing crowd. Years of being overlooked had taught him how quickly dignity could disappear. One guard asked him to step away from the entrance. The other reached for the radio clipped to his shoulder. Corbin's voice cracked as he pleaded for them to let his dad inside. No one moved. No one spoke. Then something unexpected happened. A dark van pulled into the parking lot. Then another. And another. 10 men stepped out, each wearing a small silver trident pin on the lapel of a navy blazer. They moved with quiet confidence. Disciplined. Focused. The kind of presence that changes the atmosphere without a single word. The crowd fell silent. The guards exchanged uncertain glances. Leading the group was a tall man with silver at his temples and the posture of someone who had spent a lifetime carrying responsibility. His name was Commander Alastair Vance. He had traveled hundreds of miles that morning for one reason. To attend Corbin Hale's graduation. Years earlier, when Merrick was 23, he had served in the Navy. Few people in Harbor Ridge knew anything about that chapter of his life because Merrick never talked about it. After losing Noreen, he stopped talking about almost everything except his son. But before becoming a mechanic, Merrick had been a Navy rescue specialist attached to Special Operations Support Teams. He wasn't a Navy SEAL. He didn't wear that title. What he did was far less recognized and equally dangerous. His job was bringing people home. During one mission overseas, a devastating equipment failure left a team stranded under impossible conditions. Against direct orders and overwhelming risk, Merrick volunteered to enter the extraction zone. He saved multiple lives that day. Among those rescued was a young officer named Alastair Vance. Years later, that officer would become a commander. The men standing beside him were members of the same unit Merrick had once helped save. Every year, they gathered privately to honor the people who never received recognition. Merrick always declined invitations. He said his place was with his son. When Commander Vance learned about Corbin's graduation, he insisted the team attend. As the 10 men approached the entrance, Commander Vance immediately recognized Merrick. He saw the lowered eyes. The embarrassment. The pain on Corbin's face. And he understood exactly what had happened. Without anger or accusation, Commander Vance walked directly toward Merrick. Then, in full view of the entire crowd, he stood at attention. The other 9 men did the same. Parents stopped talking. Students stared in disbelief. The guards stepped backward. Commander Vance saluted. Not because protocol demanded it. Because respect did. His voice carried clearly across the courtyard as he explained that the man standing before them had once risked everything to bring others home to their families. He said that every person in their group owed Merrick Hale a debt they could never fully repay. He explained that courage doesn't always wear medals in public. Sometimes it works quietly in small garages. Sometimes it raises children alone. Sometimes it keeps promises nobody else notices. Tears filled Corbin's eyes. For the first time that morning, he stood a little taller. Pride replaced confusion. The security guards quickly apologized. Their voices shook with regret. Merrick accepted their apology immediately. Because bitterness had never been part of who he was. The auditorium doors opened. This time, Merrick didn't walk in alone. Commander Vance and the 9 SEALs followed beside him. As word spread through the crowd, something remarkable happened. Parents stood. Teachers stood. Students stood. An entire auditorium rose to its feet. Not for a celebrity. Not for a famous athlete. For a father who had quietly sacrificed everything for his child. Merrick looked overwhelmed. Corbin grabbed his hand and squeezed it tightly. Neither of them let go. During the ceremony, Corbin crossed the stage with tears in his eyes. When his name was announced, the applause lasted longer than anyone else's. Not because people felt sorry for him. Because they finally understood the strength it had taken for him and his father to reach that moment together. After the ceremony ended, families gathered outside beneath the afternoon sun. Children laughed. Cameras flashed. Corbin introduced his friends to the men who had traveled across the country to honor his father. For the first time in years, Merrick shared stories from his past. Not stories about danger or heroism. Stories about friendship. About loyalty. About ordinary people doing extraordinary things for each other. Before leaving, Commander Vance placed a hand on Corbin's shoulder and told him that true strength isn't measured by titles or uniforms. It's measured by showing up. Every single day. Corbin smiled. Because that was exactly what his father had done. Day after day. Year after year. Without applause. Without recognition. Without giving up. If this story touched your heart, please take a moment to like this video, share it with someone you love, and subscribe to Kindness Hub. Your support helps us share more stories that remind the world that kindness still exists. Special request: comment below with the words, "I will always show up," if you believe no child should ever doubt that someone loves them. As the sun began to set over Harbor Ridge, Merrick and Corbin walked back toward their old pickup truck. The compass rested safely in Corbin's pocket. Their future was still uncertain. Money would still be tight. Life would still bring challenges. But neither of them was afraid. Because they had something stronger than fear. They had each other. And sometimes, the greatest heroes are not the ones standing in the spotlight. They are the parents who keep showing up, even when life gives them every reason to quit. The parents who carry invisible burdens. The parents who choose love over pride. The parents who make impossible promises and somehow keep them. Long after the applause faded and the parking lot emptied, one memory remained. A little boy looking up at his father with complete certainty. Not because his father had once saved soldiers. Not because 10 Navy SEALs stood beside him. But because, through every hardship and every loss, his father had kept the promise that mattered most. "I'll always show up."